What's up, Internet? Welcome back to Skywalker Talk, your number one place for unbiased and positive Star Wars conversation. I, of course, owe you an apology because the channel is brand new. And it's been about 2 weeks since I've been able to make my last episode. This is only episode 3. Really excited to be doing this. But that break, I had a vacation. I had to travel back home. I just moved to the state that I live in currently. Had to go back for a wedding, to visit some people and some family. So I've really just been busy these last couple of weeks. So have no fear. The channel is still going full steam. I know it's new, so I don't want anyone to get the impression that the channel is already going away. Hopefully, if you've already found this channel, you're enjoying it and looking forward to more Star Wars conversation from myself, and also to look forward to many guests, which I will eventually be having come as well once the channel's been going for a while and I get some ground underneath my feet as Skywalker Talk moves forward. So I definitely appreciate your patience. We're 21 subscribers strong right now. Feels pretty good. So thank you to everyone out there who's discovered the channel, whether you've come over from my gaming channel, Rule of Two Review, or if you've just found it via searching for awesome Star Wars related news and stuff. If you like the channel and you've subscribed, thank you so much. Don't be afraid to share it with your friends and other fellow nerds and Star Wars fans. So what I want to do, since it's been a couple of weeks since I've been able to make this third episode, is just kind of touch on 3 small pieces of news. Actually, only 2 of them are small. One of them is actually a pretty big piece of news. But I did want to touch on 3 different pieces that have happened these last couple of weeks and just kind of discuss that and go over what I think a lot of that stuff means. The first one is a small bit of news that I think we all probably saw coming. I don't think that this has huge bearing on anything Star Wars related, but it is pretty cool. It was finally just confirmed that Star Wars will be attending Comic-Con this year in just a month's time, taking the esteemed Hall H, which is usually the biggest hall, the biggest auditorium where the largest presentations are always held. That's where stuff like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, the Star Wars prequels, all the Marvel stuff, like when a big Marvel film like Avengers or something is coming out, that's where you are going to see those films premiered and talked about in panels, and all the stars and the actors and the writers and directors all come out and discuss this exciting new film. Now, you would have wanted to think that it was obvious that Star Wars was going to be at the last Comic-Con to happen before the premiere of the new Star Wars trilogy and Episode 7, The Force Awakens, but it just hadn't been confirmed until literally the last couple of days, which is really crazy. This is going to be really exciting. I mean, we know that probably JJ is going to be there, Kathleen Kennedy. I think Lucasfilm has confirmed that they're going to be there. We know all the newer stars, Oscar Isaacs, Daisy Ridley, John Boyega are going to be there. Maybe Max von Sydow, Adam Driver probably, Gwendolyn Christie, I'm sure. The real big question is, are we going to see the main 3 to 5 returning? Will we see Anthony Daniels and Mark Hamill? And I almost said Luke Skywalker, who is Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, or Peter Mayhew, and all of those folks, with the exception of Harrison Ford, did show up at Star Wars Celebration a couple of months ago. We know Harrison Ford really isn't that big on these kinds of things, it doesn't seem. So we don't really know if we can expect him. I have a feeling he won't be there, but you never know, maybe. I mean, Lucasfilm and Disney and Kathleen Kennedy are pretty powerful, so they might be able to talk him into just making a quick appearance and saying, hey, this is Comic-Con, this is a big deal, we're thrilled to have you back playing the most iconic role in history, in this film, in Episode 7, maybe 8 and or 9, we don't really know yet, but just to have him back, period, is so cool. I'm sure that they might be able to say, hey, buddy, come on back, do a quick, do 10 minutes on stage at Comic-Con, it'd be great. And maybe he'll do it. So I guess that remains to be seen. I would love it if George Lucas made an appearance, and I think that there's a small possibility, but like 20%. Maybe Lucasfilm just wants him to come back, to kind of be there as the last showing before the new trilogy starts, of his universe that he created. So I would just die inside with happiness if he had a reason to show up. So, don't expect that. I don't expect that. I don't expect Harrison Ford either, but I'm sure all those other folks are going to be there. Excuse me. Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, I'm sure, will be there to represent, they showed up very happily at Celebration. They seem to be loving the fact that they're involved again, so I would like to think that they're going to be there. So it's good to have a confirmation that in just a month's time, we're going to get more Star Wars Episode 7 goodness from Comic-Con in San Diego, so definitely be excited for that. This next piece that I want to talk about is kind of just a rumor, but a rumor that seems to have a lot of traction, and it's really exciting to think about. That is going to be the recent discussions about a potential Obi-Wan trilogy or Obi-Wan film or films that are potentially in the works or being discussed at Lucasfilm right now. The word is, of course, Ewan McGregor is kind of being sought after to come back and reprise his role and play Obi-Wan again. And, okay, so it's weird. And this was something that eventually was going to come up on Skywalker Talk. As the humongous Star Wars fan that I am, and as thrilled as I am that a new trilogy is happening, the final trilogy to Lucas's story is happening, the idea of the spin-off films, I have a very specific appreciation of, and I'm not outright in love with the idea and how it's happening. And without going too deep into that, it's really just the release schedule and the fact that they're trying to shoehorn all these new stories and new expansions of the universe and spin-off films and side films and origin story films just all over the place, like in and around the release of the new trilogy films. And that I don't love. I've been very vocal, at least to my friends, and people who I know, about how I really just wish that Lucasfilm, and more, not even so much Lucasfilm, Disney, because we know they're the ones who are making these kinds of unfortunate decisions. We know that they just want to just get as much out as possible as soon as they can, because Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, we own Star Wars, just get it out, get it out, get it out. And okay, I get it. And it is exciting, and a lot of these things are going to be amazing, actually. I'm very excited for them. But I really have just wished that they would wait until the trilogy finishes. Let the trilogy come and go with a year wait in between. When Episode 9 is done, go nuts. You can do all the Yoda films and Han Solo films and Boba Fett films that you want. That being said, that ain't happening. We know that's not happening. I am excited for the anthology film series. Don't get me wrong. Rogue One sounds fantastic. The rumors that the other one that Josh Trank was attached to, that he has now left, seems to be shaping up to be a Boba Fett story, and I love me some Boba Fett. I got a Mandalorian tattoo on my arm, so I'm excited. That's going to be great stuff. I wish it wasn't releasing so soon, but I'm excited for the films. So when we look at the idea of an Obi-Wan film or trilogy of films, I do get excited, considering we live in a world where these movies are just coming out so fast. I get excited for a couple of reasons. The most obvious reason is Obi-Wan Kenobi is amazing. Who doesn't want to see more of Obi-Wan and get a better idea of what he was doing and who he was and what his history is, at any period throughout his life or his life after his life as a Force ghost, Part of the allure and excitement about the prequels is that we had so much information of Obi-Wan Kenobi. We got to see his, a portion of his origin story. We saw him from a very young age, and we saw what he went through at the time of the Jedi, being a Padawan himself, to taking on a Padawan, to having to be a Jedi Master, and then living through the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire, and becoming the overseer of the new set of Skywalker twins and the new elements of the Force, in protecting Luke. We saw what he went through, but there's obviously a lot of other stories to tell. Now, a very interesting element to this, too, is, for those who may or may not know, with what still exists in the current canon, the Clone Wars TV series. That is still obviously canon, because it happens between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. And in that series, you may or may not know, it was shown that Darth Maul never died in The Phantom Menace when it seemed as though Obi-Wan killed him. And this was signed off by George Lucas at the time, well before he sold the company and the canon was kind of restructured. This had always been the case. Darth Maul officially survived. He had these mechanical legs created for the bottom half of his body, which is crazy, but it's Star Wars. And his brother comes around, and they have this whole thing, and it's really cool. Through that, we know that Darth Maul has a very special hatred for Obi-Wan Kenobi, because Obi-Wan Kenobi took his legs. And the idea of Darth Maul and Obi-Wan Kenobi coming back for an Obi-Wan film or series of films, featuring Ewan McGregor and more than likely Ray Park playing Darth Maul if he has a reason to come back into that story, that is so exciting to me. And even though, like I said, I don't love the idea of so many new films just being shoehorned in and thrown all over the place, like confetti, like Star Wars movies just everywhere, that sounds amazing, and not only because I think it's a great story to tell regardless, but also because, as somebody who is a diehard fan of the prequel films just as much as the original films, I like the idea of furthering and continuing to build off of the legacy of those films. I like the idea that the actors and the stories that happened in those films will continue more now under the new regime of Disney and under the new regime of Kathleen Kennedy leading Lucasfilm, and it kind of further delivers on why those movies are great and why they matter, you know, because I'm sure a lot of people have this thing where it's like, well, you know, I love the original trilogy, and people who don't like the prequels might just like write them off or not pay much attention to them. And like, you really can't do that because they are episodes 1, 2, and 3 of what will become 9 episodes. They are what's important. They are the beginning, the birth of the whole movie series and the genesis of Anakin Skywalker, you know, and it is so important. And I don't want those films to go away in the minds of a lot of people. I mean, everyone has the right to their own opinion. Don't get me wrong. Like I said in the very first episode, I don't want to change anyone's opinion. I think whatever movies you like or don't like of any series, you should like or not like. So if you don't like any of the Star Wars films, by all means, don't like them. But I don't want the importance of the prequels to go away as we get excited for the new trilogy. And the idea of building on Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan and maybe Ray Park's Darth Maul and whatever else they want to do. I mean, honestly, they could even tell those at a period where Anakin Skywalker would still be around. So bring Hayden Christensen back, you know? That'd be so great to see Obi-Wan and Anakin on screen together, but not be focusing on Anakin, be focusing on Obi-Wan, because you're branching in a different path before we come back to where Revenge of the Sith and everything falls apart. So that's what's going on there. Anyway, I really just went into my own theories and why I'm excited for it. It's not confirmed, but a lot of people who seem to be in the know have talked about the fact that it's very much in the pool of ideas that they want to move forward with. And I gotta tell you, if it's really something that they're trying that hard to achieve, I have a really good feeling that it will absolutely happen. I feel like, yes, Ewan McGregor will happily come back to play Obi-Wan again. Maybe it's only for one film. Maybe it's just one movie. And that's okay. I mean, heck, one movie could cover many different generations. We could cover a young Obi-Wan before Phantom Menace. We could cover a young Obi-Wan during the prequel era. And we could cover an older Obi-Wan, you know, between episodes 3 and 4, where he's on the desert sort of, you know, looking over Luke, but has other things that he gets involved in. I mean, there's so many ideas there. So that's really exciting to me. That's the rumors and the discussions about a potential Obi-Wan trilogy. This news is about 2 weeks old, but like I haven't been able to make a video for a couple of weeks. So this is me just catching up and wanting to talk about that. So the third and final piece of news, this was a very big piece of news these last couple of weeks. You probably know what it is, and that is going to be the reveal of Andy Serkis's character, well, his character's name, and a shot of Andy Serkis in a motion capture suit, looking incredibly ominous and imposing and really kind of evil. And so it has been revealed that he is playing a character called Supreme Leader Snoke. Some people think it's a silly name. I think it's a perfect Star Wars name. And more than that, it's a perfect Star Wars villain name. It evokes the Emperor. That just because the Emperor is like a title. It's like a title in a hierarchy of those who rule. Just like a supreme leader is the same thing. So I love the idea that, you know, we have no reason to think that, or no reason other than to think that he will be a villain and a bad guy. So that is a perfect name for a Star Wars villain. I love it. It's crazy to me that he's in mocap. I mean, he's obviously not going to be human, right? He can't possibly be human if he's going to be in a motion capture suit. And so what is he going to be doing? What is he going to look like? What race is he going to be? How is he going to be acting as this supreme leader? You know, there's a very famous shot in... it was the second teaser trailer, where we see a bunch of stormtroopers turn and face the camera, and way in the background is a black robed figure, and a lot of people said, "Who is that?" And I agree, who is that? And I mean, come on, it has to be Supreme Leader Snoke, whoever this person is. Now, some people say, could that be like a resurrected, you know, Palpatine or Sidious? Maybe it's going to be Darth Plagueis, who we know is very important to the series now within the canon. And, you know, to be fair, you know, you might say, well, his name is Supreme Leader Snoke, but there's been a history of names changing. I mean, Senator Palpatine became Chancellor Palpatine, who became Darth Sidious, who became the Emperor. So there's a couple of names there. Anakin Skywalker becomes Darth Vader. It's not impossible to think that there is, wool being pulled over our eyes. Darth Tyrannus became Count Dooku. and vice versa. Like, there's a lot, when it comes to villains specifically, it's great how the Star Wars films, all of them, both current trilogies, have played with the idea of the name of the villains sort of as like a smokescreen to sort of say like, whoop, look over here, pay attention to this, boom, now you know who this is, kind of thing. So I feel like we're absolutely going to be seeing that because all of the Star Wars films have sort of worked on a film symmetry between them. So that kind of theme and idea, I think, absolutely could and should happen and should follow through in this new trilogy. So that's kind of my theories on Supreme Leader Snoke. There's less to talk about because we don't really know a lot about it. We just know that it is the amazing Andy Serkis playing this character, so there's nothing but reasons to be excited. When the first teaser came out and there was that voiceover in the very beginning talking about the dark and the light, which sounds like it's trying to emulate Darth Sidious, a Palpatine kind of voice. People said that was most likely Andy Serkis. So if that's true, that guy sounds like a bad guy. Supreme Leader Snoke sounds like a bad guy. That hooded figure looks like a bad guy. And Andy Serkis' freaking face in that photo looks like a bad guy. So it's all just comes together, it all makes sense to me. I'm sure that that's what we're looking at. So I really can't wait to see who Supreme Leader Snoke is and how Andy Serkis' performance is going to factor into that character and how that character is going to factor into this new trilogy and how it's all going to come to a head in episode 9 6 years down the road. What a crazy fun thought that is, huh? So yeah, that's pretty much the news. Those 3 pieces of news I felt were very, very important. I'm going to leave with one last piece of news, and I know it's a sad thing. I don't mean to leave on a downer, but I think it's important to discuss. Today, June 10th, is it the 10th or the 11th? I think it's the 11th, actually. Yeah, it's the 11th. I'm sorry. June 11th, 2015. Unfortunately, Christopher Lee, the actor, died this morning of natural causes at 93 years old. What a freaking trooper. What an amazing man. Of course, it's relevant here because he played the one and only Count Dooku. So, as a huge Star Wars fan and a huge fan of the character Count Dooku, as well as a gigantic Lord of the Rings and Hobbit fan, he was amazing as Saruman. My heart goes out to the family and just to Christopher Lee and to fans of Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and all the other films he's done. He goes way back to playing Dracula and Dr. Frankenstein in the old Hammer films in the 40s and 50s. What a legacy. He was in Gremlins 2. He was in so many movies, master swordsman on film, and just a wonderful guy, great actor, and he lent to 2 of the largest fantasy properties in history of humanity in Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. So we were lucky to have him. Star Wars fans was lucky to have him as a part of our series. I feel very grateful that I got to see him play Count Dooku in 2 Star Wars films in my time, and we got to live through that, and he's added to the amazing lore that is Star Wars. So, thank you to Christopher Lee. Rest in peace, my good man. You were a class act and an amazing actor, and we all owe you a debt of gratitude for these amazing gifts and characters that you gave us across decades and decades of an amazing film career. So I hope everything's going well for you, whatever you're doing in the afterlife, So that's it. Yes, that's a sad thing, but I think it's also a happy thing to discuss because of the things that Christopher Lee gave to us as movie fans and as Star Wars fans. So that being said, that will be a wrap on episode 3 of Skywalker Talk. I, again, so appreciate anyone who's stumbling upon this very young, early channel as I'm getting this off the ground, leading into the wonderful episode 7, Force Awakens, which is coming up in just 6 months' time or so. Again, next month, July, I think the second week of July, Comic-Con happens, and I'm sure we're probably going to be getting the full Star Wars trailer, by the way, because these 2 teasers were amazing, but it's time for the goods. Tell us what's happening in this trilogy. We must know. So, that being said, I will again thank you guys for tuning in. Of course, if you have just discovered Skywalker Talk, please hit that subscribe button below. I'm very excited to move forward with this channel. I have so many different Star Wars things that I want to talk about. It was fun to be able to talk about 3 pieces of news for you guys today. Leave your thoughts about all this stuff below. Supreme Leader Snoke, the Obi-Wan Trilogy, Star Wars at Comic-Con, the new trailer. If you want to discuss Christopher Lee and his passing and what he meant to you, please do so below. That's it. I'll catch you guys on another episode soon. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always.